History of Taekwondo. You're going to find a lot of different examples and stories online on how Taekwondo came about. Some organizations claim Taekwondo is centuries old. To be honest, the actual martial art of Taekwondo was developed in the 1940s by a man named Choi Hong-hee. He was a general in the South Korean Army, so his rank was General Choi Hong-hee, would be his full title. This man was a second-degree black belt in Shotokan karate, and he felt that he could develop the techniques of the martial arts to a higher level. And he was somewhat driven by his anger towards the Japanese people because they had invaded his country. Now, General Choi took his knowledge of karate, and it was only a second-degree black belt level, but he had some visions, and he had some time as well. He was actually imprisoned by the Japanese, and 3 days before his date of execution, he was released. He was released from prison, and from that point forward, he was able to follow his dream of creating a martial art. Now, he actually had a great skill in calligraphy, and he made a really nice calligraphy, was a big one, that he gave to the president of South Korea, and it said Taekwondo. And the president had never heard this term before, and he asked what it was and what it meant and where it came from. General Choi was actually, he was playing a bit of a game, and because he gave that name to the president, and he explained his philosophies behind it, the name Taekwondo was a little bit more prominent, a little bit more in the forefront when a group of high-ranking officials, both from the government and from other martial art organizations, decided to call this martial art of Korea Taekwondo. Now, I'm really paraphrasing and skipping on a lot of the details, but I just want to give you the main concept of what happened. Ultimately, General Choi got his name of Taekwondo created. And if you look, if you research, you'll find that the word Taekwondo in any form is not available anywhere until after 1955. General Choi has been left out of many histories regarding Taekwondo, but truthfully, he was the man that brought it forward and spread it to the world. He was in charge of the ITF, the federation that he created to govern the Taekwondo as it spread around the world. And in 1966, that organization was created. Now, since that time, we've had some situations where there's a number of organizations with the same name, ITF. The ITF is a governing body, but many people call the style that we do ITF style, which is really a misnamed style that way. General Choi's pen name was TaeKwon, and that's really the style name as well. TaeKwon Taekwondo is the style that we do. It involves the original patterns, the original techniques. We have an encyclopedia that has been created by General Choi, a 15-volume encyclopedia, and subsequently a condensed encyclopedia, which is a single book. And they have all the techniques in it, exactly how they should be performed and how they should look, explanation of step sparring, everything you would ever want to know about Taekwondo. We are the only Taekwondo style that has such an in-depth set of books that we can go to for guidance. In the early 70s, somewhere around 1973, another organization was created. It was called the WTF, the World Taekwondo Federation. And it was created by the South Korean government. Again, there's a whole lot of stories that I'm jumping over and skipping over, but that made two organizations in the world, one ITF and one WTF. In the 80s, early 80s, General Choi visited North Korea, and he got them to be involved in Taekwondo, and they are practitioners of the ITF style, the Changhong style of Taekwondo. And because of that, very political situation there. Obviously, a lot of the Korean nationals who were teaching Taekwondo around the world were either forced or by choice quit the ITF because of General Choi's political move to contact and go with the North Korean group. So they left the ITF. Taekwondo is a very volatile martial art in the political side of it. General Choi continued moving forward with his art and with his vision, and part of his vision was the unification of the North and South Koreas. It didn't happen in his lifetime, and he actually was, because he was connected to the North Korean country, the group, there doing Taekwondo, he managed to get himself, actually, after he passed away, buried in North Korea. Now, at least he was buried in his homeland of Korea. He was there before it was split north and south. So that was his vision, at least, to unite the two separate countries into the one country that it was. General Choi is remembered for his incredible ideologies in regards to the martial arts. There's many philosophies in Taekwondo that he brought forward, and I mean, admittedly, he brought it forward with a lot of help from a lot of other martial artists, but basically he was considered the founder of Taekwondo, and there's interesting things like his concepts on sine wave. He's got things like when you kick, pivot your foot for a side piercing kick, for instance. That simple action does so much to that technique to improve upon the basic side kick that was out there in the world before. There's a lot of people that are wondering how the splits came, why there are so many different organizations now out there doing Taekwondo when originally there was just one. That seems to be the way of the world. There's always going to be disagreement. There's always going to be people who think they have better ideas or people that think that they can lead better. It happens, and now our world of Taekwondo is split into many different groups. And the most important thing is, I think, is to be following the style of Taekwondo that we do and trying to live up to the concepts of General Choi. That doesn't mean we can't create new concepts building on his, but to be truthful, there are so many concepts of his that are still hidden in the encyclopedia and in the video that we have of him that we're still discovering. There's no real need to create new stuff or to try and evolve things. So many people need to still understand what he taught us. General Choi ultimately named the martial art of Taekwondo. He brought forth many concepts and he put them in books so that there would be no doubt about what he was saying. I think that Taekwondo, as it stands today, is a varied martial art with different styles out there now. And we have in our dojangs the style called TaeKwon, which is the original style, and that's where we are training.
Dimensions, as per the Taekwondo Encyclopedia by General Choi. The length of the L stance is measured from the front toes to the outside edge of the back foot, is 1.5 shoulder widths long.